Good afternoon, everybody. Hello, this is Lisa Ware, Senior Group Leader. Very nice to have you on the usual Tuesday coaching, which is about skills and stuff like that. Sometimes it's about motivation and inspiration, but today it's about a subject that at the moment Utility Warehouse do not offer. I am asking them very, very, very all the time, we need this. So there's quite a lot to talk about in this subject, and I'm going to try and get through it very, very fast. And I want you to take on board that because Utility Warehouse do not offer VoIP, this is quite difficult. All right, but I'm going to say why I'm talking about it in a moment. So let me just tell you what it's all about. So first of all, what is VoIP? Okay, it's voice over internet protocol. That's just jargon for it all, isn't it, really? Basically, it's internet-based voice speaking calling. That's what it is. Okay. Rather than down what we call a landline, which is known as an analog line. So to give you an example, an analog line is something that comes down the copper wire and it's really old fashioned. I've got one. I've never given it out to anybody. Nobody knows my number because I know that there is going to be a big switch off. Now, it was going to be next year, but the government, like they do, they don't think of everything. And they haven't thought about all those people with care lines, people that may be linked up and being cared for at home or on machinery and stuff. Oh gosh, I just don't believe this. 2 seconds, guys. Sorry. I'm gonna just typical, it's a customer. I do apologize. Okay. Right. So let me go back to what I was saying. So where we live, we're very remote. And when you live remotely, as beautiful as it is, it does have its downsides. And one of them is we do get quite frequent power cuts. Now, as we all know, the internet using a router relies on electricity. And a VoIP system, which is digital calling, relies on a router. So if your electric goes down and you don't have an analog line, and let's say you're like us, that we rely on Wi-Fi calling, then we have no Wi-Fi calling, we have no internet, we have zero communication. Okay, that is exactly how it is. So the government hasn't thought about all this. They're a bit gung-ho, as you would say. And I think they think everybody just lives in cities. Well, we don't, do we? There's loads of us that don't. So the reason it's been deferred to 2027 is they've got to come up with a solution for people. All right. It's very, very important because at the moment, if you go over to VoIP at the moment, and let's say for argument's sake, you've got a care line, then if that care line is so really, really important, then what you also need is some sort of backup battery system in case your electric goes down. So a lot of people, of course, don't want to have all this hassle, don't want to spend all this money. So that's a bit of background, a little bit of background to it. Now, I've got a load of notes here, just bear with me, and I'm going to bring them up. So, traditional landlines are being phased out, and it will be by the end of January 27. And it's planned that the existing copper network will no longer be used for voice calls. Indeed, after September 23, which obviously has been and gone, you can no longer just order a new telephone line. I don't know if you're aware of that, but you can't. Okay. Now, it's different when you're switching home phone and broadband on the old system. All right. Like I've got somebody that's just moving to a new place and there is no fiber to the premises in broadband there. It's still the combination of broadband with copper, then that's different. That means that line is still available. Okay. But it is anticipated that home phone services will discontinue after the end of January 2027. So there's a lot of work to be done. Now, at this moment, Utility Warehouse doesn't offer VoIP, okay, but there are lots and lots of VoIP voice services that companies offer. Now, I'm not in here to promote any particular one. Rob Barris had a gentleman come from a company in Southampton and speak at our local buzz about it all. When I looked into that one for my builder who's switched his services, I decided it was rather costly, okay, and it wasn't for me. And I have fished out and asked around, and I found a company that is really reasonable. But there's things to be said, first of all, and this is why I'm doing this. And I've already spoken to head office. I've spoken to Steve Constantino about this because I am seeing glitches with people doing switchover of broadband services. Now, we've got the fabulous OTS standing for One Touch system. Okay. But that's for your broadband. But when you now do an appointment, whether you're doing it remotely or better in person, okay, you need to start asking some questions. And that is, do they have a traditional, is the great word to use, a traditional landline telephone service? And if they look at you a bit daft, well, of course I have, you need to be a little bit more pedantic. You need to get some detail. You need to ask them, does that landline phone, does it plug in to an open reach socket or does it plug in to their router? I think this is essential on every appointment. And I'm going to tell you why, because I've come across 3 cases now where the people concerned did not realise they had already been switched over to digital VoIP. They had no idea because they had kept their number. And I will point out that BT is one of them that's been doing this, but not telling them that their number has now become a VoIP number. And by the way, some of these cannot be transferred. So it can be a bit of a sticky problem because we don't want to upset customers that are, to them, the landline is everything. So questions are the answers. That's what we're told. Ask more questions, listen more, speak less. Very important. So on this appointment now, when you get to that first screen on the Join the Club site, the JTC, when you get to broadband, you've got to start asking some questions. It's really important. Is their landline phone, is it plugged into a router, their router? Do you know some of them don't even realise? They have no idea. And then you go and put through an application which is a like for like, and you believe everything's tiggity-boo. And then about a week later, the line provisioning team come back and say, we can't do this. And they're calling the customer and asking them, do you mind if you don't have a landline? Now, one of them is one of my new partners. And as it happens, she's a young person who has never plugged a telephone in. Do you know, those people, it doesn't matter. If they tell you they've never plugged a phone in, or the other thing they say to you is, oh, I don't have a phone landline. Well, a lot of them do, but they just don't realise. And the younger generation have already moved over to using their mobile phone solidly. And it makes sense, to be honest, because I think every package, whether it's essential or unlimited, it is unlimited phone calls and text messages. The only thing that makes a difference is the amount of data. That's what the pricing is based on these days. So if you've got somebody that's using a phone, ask those questions. It is essential. Now, you're probably going to have a bit of a minor inside panic when they tell you that their landline is important and what comes up on the screen is only fibre to the premises. And there are lots of the occasions when that's happening. You don't need to panic anymore. And that's why I'm doing this, because there are companies out there that can help. So what I'm going to do is talk about how they can keep the landline number. Now, in technical terms, it's known as a CLI, caller line identity, right? That's what the industry calls it. And what they're after keeping is that number. They're not after keeping, we've got to get this right, it won't stay a landline. It's going to become digital. And I think we owe it to the customer to be transparent on that. Very important. So in the majority of cases, you can move a number from an existing telephone provider to a VoIP provider. And the process is known as number porting. That's the official name. Probably good to write that down. Number porting takes about 10 days to complete. And there is usually a charge for some, but not all charge for porting. I have been referred to a company that doesn't charge for porting. And it's as little as £6 a month to keep that number. Now, I want you to bear this in mind. How much has line rental been as we've all known it? It's been about £14-15. So actually, this is to the customer's benefit. Okay, it's really, really good. So how can I use landline phone calls for VoIP calls? How can it be done? Right? Well, in most cases, you will not need to buy a new, let's get the terminology right, a new handset. All right. And let's not talk about phones, because people talk about phones and then they mean mobiles. We've got to get the terminology correct. So a new handset, if they're going to move to a VoIP service. If you have a VoIP enabled router, you'll be able to connect the existing phone handset into the back. And after a few additional settings within the router that's done by the VoIP provider, you can make and receive calls. It's that simple. Do our routers allow for VoIP? The answer is yes. The new routers do. All right, that's good news. Okay. The easiest option, if the handset they've got cannot be plugged into the back of the router, is to use something called an ATA, which stands for analog telephone adapter. Okay, this terminology will all become very sort of fluid, I would imagine, over the next couple of years. And the device connects your analog handset to the internet, thereby allowing it to communicate to the VoIP technology. Okay, now these VoIP providers provide these adapters, okay, usually at a cost. So let me explain to you what I'm doing so it makes some sense with my builder, because we've had some real fun and games. Thankfully, he has been the most easy. He's so laid back, he'd fall over. So he's been wonderfully understanding, because when I asked him, bear this in mind, he says to me, yeah, I have got a phone plugged in at home, but to be honest, we don't use it. We use our mobiles. And I said to him, is it a landline phone? And he said, yes. My mistake. I assumed when I asked him, was it a landline phone, that it was. Well, unbeknown to me, that when the order goes through, it gets rejected because he's actually got a digital VoIP number. When he moved from BT to Vodafone, they didn't tell him. There you are. Some of them don't know. They didn't tell him that he actually now had a digital number. Now, this number is sign written on all his vans. I would say it was a very good reason why he wants to keep it. He said, in truth, I'd like to get rid of it completely because why can't somebody ring a mobile? But he gave me a very good reason why he needs to keep it. He said, the older generation distrust mobiles and they see you that you could be a fly-by-night builder that comes and goes. Now, I get all this because they believe if there's a landline number, and by the way, they don't realise about digital, that do you know an 01202 number could effectively be used from anywhere in the world. So their thought processes are incorrect, but it's all about what people feel. And if people feel that something is solid and it's going to be giving them the kind of service that they want, he says keeping that landline number is good. Now, what he's got in place is they ring it thinking they're ringing a landline number. It goes instantly by divert to his mobile phone. That's what most businesses tend to do these days. So it's purely there for a convenience for customers. So when we found out from the line provisioning team that this thing wasn't going to happen, I ring him up and say, Mark, you never told me that this was a digital number, a VoIP number. Oh, didn't I tell you that? He said. Oh, yeah. He did know, but he didn't tell me. So this is why I'm saying to you, I think we've got to ask a lot of questions now. It's really, really important because we can avoid some of these errors. And I've had 3 of them. So I am sharing my mistakes with you. Okay. So going forward, we can prevent this stuff. So anyway, what now happens is I speak to the line provisioning team who tell me there is a workaround. Well, I'd already thought of it myself, and this is what we did, and he's fine. Because Vodafone, hear this out, Vodafone are very naughty. If you transfer that digital number, even though it's got absolutely nothing to do with the broadband whatsoever, they cancel that number like they've owned it. This is a bit like the early days with mobile phone handsets that were always locked and how difficult they made it for people to move. This is like another way. Do you know, it is rip off Britain, ladies and gentlemen. It really is. So I've come up with a solution combined with the line provisioning team, combined with Mark. And that is, we've ordered a brand new line install. A completely new line. Now, the information I had to say to him was, Mark, somebody has to be in the property at your house because it's no good the Openreach engineer just converting the existing socket because that's where Vodafone are. This has to be a brand new socket. And he understood that. So what we've now got is a brand new line install. You're thinking, oh, but it's another £1 a month. Actually, head office agreed that can be waived. So because they're not providing VoIP, it's a little bit of a concession. So he's now got his brand new UW broadband set up with a brand new number. But what we want to do is transfer his existing number that's VoIP onto the new one. Now, the way we've done it is at the moment, he's got Vodafone running and he's also got UW. He's put everything Ethernet at the moment on UW and everything that's still Wi-Fi is on Vodafone. So what we're now doing with the VoIP company is we are now porting this number. As soon as the application to port it, Vodafone will cut off his broadband. How naughty is that? Isn't that naughty? So this stuff is really important to know, isn't it? Yeah. So what has happened now is the Voip company have said to me, there is an online application that my customer has to complete, and it will let Vodafone know that they are requesting the porting. Now, there is no charge for porting with this particular company. Hear this, it's only £6 a month to run it, and there's 100 inclusive minutes, which, to be honest, Mark has said they'll never ring out on that phone, but it's there. But he's happy with £6 a month. He's now got his broadband with UW, which made the third service, and there is a cancellation fee on the old one, but I've had it all authorised that early termination fee for the Vodafone setup will be paid out to him. So I've got a workaround on that, and he's going to be transporting that VoIP number. Now, look, guys, it's a minefield. There are loads of VoIP services. There's loads of them. But what are the benefits of VoIP? Are there any benefits? Let me just tell you that once the number has connected, we used to call it a home number, didn't we? Yeah. And it's connected to VoIP, you can enjoy the benefits of cost-effective and feature-rich communication, including call forwarding, voicemail. You can have the old Wi-Fi calling on mobile phones that come in and out of the house. And it is actually much cheaper if somebody wants to ring out internationally on it. And of course, the other thing is, I just say to people, well, why don't you ring through WhatsApp if they're ringing abroad? Because that makes sense too, doesn't it? And actually, I do think that the calling has got better and better. In fact, in reality, the calls are clearer through the internet than they are on the old landline. So that is what I've been explaining. I'm now going to unmute. How do I get you to unmute? Can I make you unmute? Allow. Oh. He won't give up, this guy, will he? Hi guys. Right. You can unmute. Have you got any questions?
One of the other benefits on the VoIP, Lisa, I nearly called you something else there. One of the other benefits is with some of the companies, you can actually have the VoIP app on your mobile so that when you are on holiday in, hey, who knows, Barbados or whatever, you can make a call as if you were sitting at home and it's included in your minutes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've been told that. Although I haven't kind of said all that because I'm hoping that lots of us are getting, people are on our unlimited mobile deal, which gives 45 countries roam like home and fantastic. You've got 14 gig of
Yeah,
data. I don't know if anyone's aware. Are you aware that 14 gig on roaming abroad is really good?
it's
It's
huge.
it's huge because there's so many other companies, like I know O2 and I know Vodafone charge £5 a day from the moment you make a call or something like
That's
that.
cool.
Yeah, so it's very, very good. So do you think I've managed to explain that fairly easily, given that I am the most non-techie person now, and I have often go to Mike Parnis for help? But I've made it my business to understand and learn this because I think it's something that is going to just get bigger and bigger and bigger as more and more parts of the country become fibre to the premises only. Yes, Steve.
What's the company called? £6 a month. I know you can't really say, but
Right, I'm not on any commission here. And
okay.
it was another SGL up north that gave it to me, and they have been amazing. They're called Voip Phone. So VoIPphone.
Oh,
And I
that's
tell
good.
you why I say they're amazing. Shall I tell you why?
Go on.
Because there's real human beings you can understand when
Oh,
you ring them
real
up.
people.
Yay!
Yes.
Oh, that's
So
going to
I
go my
had
time.
some absolutely superb conversations with different members of their company. And to me, the reason I like them is that it's almost bringing the same kind of six-star service that we do, that we provide for
Yeah,
our customers.
that's great. That's great.
Yeah. The other thing, Lisa, was you said they get 100 minutes call time or whatever it
Inclusive. Yeah.
was, inclusive. What if they use more than that?
Well, then they'll be charged. There's a charge.
There's a
But you
charge. Yeah.
but you see, each person that I've moved to this, every one of them has actually said to me they don't actually use the phone to ring out. One lady, it was, oh, well, my mother, she just won't ring a mobile. But what's so funny, as this lady now understands, is, to be honest, this is as good as ringing a mobile, but in the perception of the elderly person, she
Mm.
believes she's ringing a landline, which she's not.
Yeah, yeah, that's yeah. Yeah.
So, on that score, what I would also say, do you know, part of our incredible customer service, wouldn't you say it would be a great idea that we use this as an education to people so they
Yeah,
can understand
Mm.
as
definitely.
well?
Yeah.
Now, Mike's just put in the chat, I was going to bring him up, and I know he's been used a lot. Let me just find it, because I did see it come up, and I know of him. Hang on, where's the chat gone?
Anthony.
I've lost it. Oh, it's there. It's in there, isn't it? Is it in there?
Oh, if it's the message I sent to you, it was actually on WhatsApp.
Oh, was it? Sorry. I
Yeah,
didn't realize it
yeah,
was
it
on
popped up.
WhatsApp. Let me have a
It was
look.
Anthony.
Okay, I think you can all still see me. Yeah, Anthony Illingworth is a UW partner and runs a Voip company and is hands-on. Yeah, he is. I know that. Absolutely. And there are others. Like I said, Rob Barris brought somebody along
Yeah,
few
that's
months ago to
yeah.
Bournemouth. But when I looked into it, that one was very expensive. But that was because this company was providing handsets included as well. But what I've learned is they don't necessarily have to change their handset. So
Yeah.
The
what we
adapter
want to
does that.
do, we want to make this as seamless as possible, don't we, for people?
Yeah.
Because I think we're all, if we're honest, none of us actually like change. All right. And this is a big give that I'm going to give to you. This is skills, right? When you're talking to people and you tell them about that it's only fibre to the premises and they go, oh no, I don't want that. This is what you can say to them is, look, in reality, it's happened already and you have no choice. Oh, excuse me, what? Oh, can you believe it? So it's about saying to them, look, it's already happened. It doesn't matter who you go with, you've only got fibre available now. Okay. And once upon a time, we all went round in a horse and cart, but we've all managed to learn to adapt to say, we'll bother to learn the technology of driving a car. Because I don't think we're going to go around in a horse and a cart anymore. And I think that's a great analogy to give people to understand that no matter what, like my mum says, I don't want internet banking. And I said, Mum, you know what? They've already stopped the paper banking statements. And Mum, no matter what happens, we've got to teach you because I think the way it's going, I mean, Blandford is down to one bank now of any, just one. They're
Yeah.
going, aren't they? They're
Yeah.
Yeah.
going. And there comes a point where you will get left behind. And I don't know what these people will do
Agreed.
because it will just happen. And I say to them, do you know what? There's 2 years now, leeway. Let's get you up and running and prepared and
Yeah.
understanding and doing this stuff in readiness rather than all of a sudden someone comes along and goes, you can't have it anymore. And I
Yeah.
tell you another great analogy. was when the government decided that pensions could no longer be collected at the post office. You had to have a bank account that the pension went into. There was no choice.
Yeah.
And this is a similar thing. So, guys, I'm not going to delay this because I think I've spoken, hopefully, in a simple format. I'm so sorry for the interruptions. I will ring this guy back. But this is the only problem. I should have switched the phone off entirely, but I needed it because I've been reading my notes that I did. So I hope that makes some sense. And next week, we're going to talk about something else entirely different that has come from Ros Healy, who's a team leader. And I'm not going to tell you what it is at the moment. It'll be a surprise. But same time, same place, 4:30 next week. Mike, new GL. See you on the leader call at 6.
Yes, indeed, 6 o'clock.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Bye.